Okay, so platforms are making this transition to the role of data consultant, right? I guess my question is, what was their role before? What did that sort of look like? And then what's changed since then?
So I think the evolution we've seen is the rise of platforms so quickly, and actually I thought the point in the previous session about search as an original programmatic platform, the rise of platforms seeming like the magical solution to to all of your problems, that they came about so quickly. That now I think as there's more and more data, as there's more and more ad formats, channels, devices, you name it, and buying mechanisms and tactics, that we've come to a point where there's a need for the platform, obviously, as the underlying part of the solution, but we increasingly see in our roles and the roles of agencies and others that there's just so much need to learn and become experts in the operation of the platform and all of the components and ingredients that plug into the platform to make it successful.
One of the challenges that I believe is advertisers and brands mentioned is this I guess confusion over whether to take a lot of this in-house or to externally deal with it. Is your role as consultant, is that at all a product of more people taking it in-house and then needing some sort of guidance on what to do with it in terms of the buying and strategy on that level?
Yeah, I think, we at Yahoo are being as flexible as we possibly can be in how we work with clients directly, how we work with agencies and trading desks. It's all evolving so quickly. We certainly want to support those clients who are interested in being more hands-on with our platform. But it's more often than not, it's agencies and trading desks who are engaging. I think with platforms, not obviously beyond ours as well. So I think that it makes sense to be flexible there. If we all had the crystal ball of how it will evolve, we'll see how it plays out. But I certainly see agencies and trading desks evolving in their roles, and I think also more than anything, as digital advertising and programmatic in particular starts to permeate all of advertising, that agencies and particular trading desks are evolving in their roles to become almost more consultants across their entire holding company rather than just a standalone entity. And again, we're trying to service all of those different needs.
Right. Another thing that you've talked about is this blurring of lines, I guess, between branding or awareness campaigns and direct response campaigns. What do you mean by that exactly?
So I think as more and more advertising has moved digital, and as that advertising has become increasingly measurable, and as the funnel is arguably being disrupted, and there are people who talk about the consumer decision journey and how you can jump from the awareness to purchase, obviously extremely quickly, or you can have a recommendation from a friend drive you to purchase almost immediately. And then there's the loyalty loop and all of those components that I think the notion of a branding campaign as something that has to start earlier in the process of building awareness of a product that maybe isn't as measurable as a direct response campaign. A lot of that is starting to fade, and you see, especially with offline measurement techniques and the scale that can be achieved with online plus offline measurement, along with the scale of digital campaigns as a whole now. I think you see that it really is starting to be much less siloed across brand and direct response.
And have you seen that different channels are being utilized with these sorts of campaigns than would normally be used with branding or awareness campaigns?
Well, I think there are so many shifts that are happening all at the same time to all of us that are driven by consumer behavior changes, obviously, from desktop to mobile and TV to online video, et cetera. That we see that new formats are evolving every day, arriving every day. We've invested a lot in our platform called Yahoo Gemini, for example, that is a broad range of native ad formats. Where I know native, just like private marketplaces, from the earlier session, native can mean different things to different people. In our case, it's much more integrated, more personalized ads that can take a different shape and form depending on the surrounding content. Ranging really from more content marketing, which is actually a very effective branding and engagement vehicle that can drive direct response as well, to more sort of standard stream ads, integrated in news feeds.
Yeah.
And so I think that plus video in particular is video where you might say video is almost display 2.0 are some interesting trends that we're just seeing tremendous investment there.
Yeah, I mean that sort of bleeds into my next question. Are there, other than what you've already mentioned, some formats that are being used in creative ways, or are you seeing more or less the same types of formats, ad formats that would have been used in sort of the older model of awareness campaigns?
Yeah, I think that video in particular is, because you can run a video campaign so much more cost effectively, and because every consumer can access video, whether on their phone or on the desktop, I think that's the biggest shift that we've seen, is that video is no longer, by a long stretch, it's no longer, obviously pre-roll, mid-roll, post-roll. It's in stream. It's everywhere. It's in banner or in sort of standard display placements. I think that's one of the biggest shifts we've seen, and branders can, for branding purposes, obviously video is very, very successful. And then I mentioned more native formats, and I think especially content marketing is an interesting one, where figuring out the recipe of achieving content marketing at relative scale is not trivial, obviously, but I think it can be very, very successful in driving the kind of engagement that both brand and direct response campaigns have warranted.
So yeah, something that's important to both sides across the board is reporting and metrics. So what does that sort of look like in this context? What sorts of metrics are you looking at to evaluate these?
Yeah, I think the measurement of offline conversions in particular has become something that we want to support that as an always-on capability. That even if your campaign is not specifically intended to drive offline sales, that it's probably something you should always be considering as an ingredient to making the right optimization decisions and evolving the campaigns over time. I think the insights into the more of the conversion, obviously online, is pretty important, and we can achieve that at great scale. We've actually invested a lot in looking across different tactics, and I think that's also pretty significant. That for example, you can see the effect of a search campaign or a homepage buy alongside a campaign that's more intended to be a direct response driver, or a campaign that's intended to be more of a brand awareness driver. And
so you're talking here about taking a longer view of branding and awareness campaigns. Does this mean that more than before, planners are able to look at a campaign at different points as it progresses and sort of optimize on the fly, or is that something that they're able to do? Absolutely, yeah. I think again, offline measurement actually is a particularly interesting capability there that historically has been something where you'd see the report weeks after your campaign ran. And again, I mentioned going always on with that capability. I think that's really significant in being able to to make changes to your campaign mid-cycle. And then the other piece, I think, is just we haven't really talked about the ingredients of data as inputs, right? You mentioned insights and how do you look at the data that comes out of a campaign. Right. You're looking at the data that goes into a campaign. That's changed, I think, dramatically. There's so many new sources of data. Whether it's it can be searches, of course, it can be purchase intent coming from number sources, it can be offline conversions, it can be predictive modeling, taking all of those into account. Right. How do you sort of mix and match across all the different data inputs you have to get the right result, and doing that on the fly, and both with the platform automating it as well as humans tuning it, I think is really significant. It's something we've been investing in
And it all starts with understanding what the objective of the campaign is at the beginning.
Right. So what do you, like you just said, what are those objectives? Because this is blurring of awareness and direct response, and those have very different goals. So what are the real barometers of success here, strategically?
So we look at, especially as we've invested in more objective-based targeting or objective-based buying, that's actually one of the hardest questions, I think, to answer, and I expect it will evolve a lot, but certainly, there are the basics of I want clicks, or I want conversions online, I want conversions offline, I want engagement with my ads, I want completed views of a video, and engagement of ads, if it's like content marketing, for example, is very, very significant. Sharing actually my sponsored content becomes very significant. So it can, it certainly varies depending on whether there is a more of a slant towards building awareness or driving a sale immediately.
Right.
But as we said, it's I think you can look at them together, right? Certainly to understand the full value of the campaign.
So my next question is a little bit ontological. You're talking about this blurring. Is this really that awareness campaigns are changing, or is this that everything is becoming so compressed that it's just difficult to deal with those different stages as discrete steps along the way?
I think it's more the latter. Yeah, I think it's the fact that it has been the cycle has been so disrupted, right? That you kind of you're almost fooling yourself if you start by thinking, okay, this is just about building awareness, right? And that's where I do think that the measurement in parallel, the data inputs in parallel, so that you can and the very quick quick twitch reaction to what's working and what's not is just more critical than ever. And really, it's almost like the campaign has a life of its own in some ways, right? And it will tell you, if you watch closely enough, right, it will tell you what's working and what's not and how you should adjust.
Right. So for like a minute, right, you're saying that you're taking on the role of data consultant. So how about a free consulting session, right? What are some rules of thumb that buyers should keep in mind, given everything that you've said?
Yeah, one is not to operate, in a silo with, thinking about whether it's branding or direct response, or whether it's programmatic or other means of buying. I think one example there that we've seen is if you buy a homepage ad, for example, that you wouldn't expect this necessarily, but it can have a very significant impact on more audience-targeted programmatic campaigns for a pretty long period after that ad. And that, yes, that is sort of planting a seed of awareness, right? Right. But I think that's really significant. We kind of touched on this, but we sometimes say don't set it and forget it, right? That if you expect that programmatic equals completely automatic, that's not the reality, right? And so continually optimizing the campaign, watching it very closely, trying different targeting tactics. Trying different pricing and site targeting as well. We have a very large e-commerce customer who doubled their price actually over the course, doubled their bid price, average bid price over the course of a quarter, actually narrowed down the number of sites they were bidding against, and dramatically increased their performance. So I think that's not always intuitive, right? To pay more and actually get a better ROI. And then the last piece is really that flexibility in targeting. That you should try every targeting tactic, every data input that you think could possibly make sense, and almost expect the unexpected there, because we've seen with a number of clients that as we've automated, as we've become more automated in adapting to all of the different data inputs, and look to find what really works and what doesn't, that there are more often than not surprises in there, right? That a customer will come in and think that a particular target is exactly what they should be going after, and that may be a component, but it may also be a very different audience than that is most successful for them. And so we've seen that with with a large home retailer. In fact, across 6 brands that they're advertising with us. That just that constant learning, and you really will uncover some surprises there.
Okay. I think we might have time for one question.
I think we can do one very quick question. Anyone?
All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.